Good Friday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Right now on Morning News Now, deja vu. 3 days and 11 rounds of votes, and the House still does not have a speaker, with Republicans failing to unite behind Kevin McCarthy. We have the latest on negotiations and word of a possible deal in the works. All of this as Capitol Hill marks 2 years since the January 6th insurrection. How lawmakers are marking the occasion today. Key evidence unveiled in the investigation into the Idaho student murders. Police are revealing how they say they were able to connect their suspect to the crime as he faces a judge in Idaho for the first time. What we're learning about the DNA evidence police say they found at the scene, and the surviving roommate who came face to face with the suspect. Hope for Hamlin. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin is showing substantial improvement after collapsing on the field during Monday night's game, suffering cardiac arrest. Doctors say he's now communicating by writing, and they shared one of the first things he asked.
He was able to emerge and follow commands and even ask who had won the game. When he asked, did we win? The answer is, yes, Demar, you won. You've won the game of life.
What doctors are now saying about this road to recovery. Also this morning, banned in the classroom. New York City is forbidding students from using widely popular chatbot. The concerns ChatGPT could impact student learning and grades, and the likelihood other school districts could follow. We are so happy to have you with us on this Friday morning.
Yes.
It's felt like a long week. Maybe getting
it's our
after a holiday.
Week,
Yeah. Ooh, maybe you're feeling it too at home, but we're almost to the weekend, and we begin today in Washington, where there's a glimmer of hope as the House enters its 4th day of voting in the battle for Speaker of the House.
Frustrations are running high, and House operations remain at a standstill as lawmakers prepare to close out the week with no clear candidate. Republican leader Kevin McCarthy is making history. After 11 rounds of votes over the last 3 days, he has fallen short of the 218 votes needed each time. This morning, lawmakers are preparing for the 12th round of voting, something that has not happened in 163 years. Despite this, McCarthy remains confident.
Who else will get to 200 votes? How many more votes until we win? I felt very positive yesterday. I feel more positive today. I think we had really good discussions. I think it really come to a really good point.
NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us now with the very latest. So, Julie, as we mentioned, there was a little bit of progress in negotiations, but could this still drag into a second week? I mean, what do we expect today?
Yeah, Joe, it's Groundhog Day again and again and again this week. We've been hearing for days now that progress has been made, but last night, it seems like things are finally maybe starting to shake loose. If the math doesn't add up, you're not alone. I don't think it's enough to get Kevin McCarthy to 218. But all day yesterday, his allies were running from meeting to meeting. We were chasing them up and down the stairs, trying to peel off some of those who were in the opposition camp. They're not going to get all of them in one go, but this is kind of the phase one, as one source described it to me. I want you to take a listen to some of the back and forth we heard all day yesterday from his allies and opponents.
If it takes until tomorrow, it takes tomorrow. It takes till the 4th of July, it takes till the 4th of July. But at the end of the day, Kevin will get his speech.
We need to get to a point where we start evaluating what life after Kevin McCarthy looks like.
First time in 100 years that there is no Congress. Because of ambition or power grabs, dysfunction. It's embarrassing, it's dysfunctional, it's dangerous, it's stupid. Those are the words that Republicans have used.
Look, the longer this goes, the harder it gets for Kevin McCarthy to actually get that speakership gavel, because people's patience are growing thin, right? They have the weekend they're up against today, the January 6th anniversary, so lawmakers are focused on other things. So they really need to get this wrapped up, but it's not clear and it's not likely they're going to do that today.
I mean, McCarthy is making history, and not in a good way, with the number of failed House Speaker votes that have taken place. How could this impact his ability to lead if he does get the gavel? Is this a precursor of what the next 2 years could look like, with the hard right group within the Republican Party making it difficult for the majority to govern?
Yeah, that's something people are talking about. That's something moderates are really concerned about. I was talking to a couple of them yesterday who are worried that these concessions that Kevin McCarthy is making to these hard right conservatives could weaken his power and his standing, because some of those concessions, as we talked about, include rules committee changes, putting those members on some of those committees that can actually control the floor, and also that motion to vacate any one of those members, according to these new rules, could essentially put up a fight to Kevin McCarthy at any time they wanted to on the floor. So this is really tricky, and moderates I was talking to, there's actually going to be a phone call this morning where Kevin McCarthy tries to appeal to them and try to shake those worries away, but they're worried about how this is going to play the next 2 years. There's already going to be gridlock in Washington with a divided Congress. Moderates are hoping they're going to be able to work across the aisle to get bipartisan legislation passed, but this gets trickier and trickier the more concessions McCarthy continues to make to these groups of hardliners for them to get anything done over the next 2 years of Joe Biden's presidency.
Looking at the present, I mean, we've said no business within the House can be handled until the Speaker is elected. There's some crucial legislative matters and housekeeping that are going to remain at a standstill if this battle drags on. So what's not getting done and what's at risk here?
Yeah, this is a big problem. I was talking to members on the Intelligence Committee, for example, who told me I'm not even a member of Congress. They can't get into the special room that requires clearance. All of that has been revoked and put on hold as they're waiting for a speaker to be sworn in. There's also, of course, the issue of pay. Staffers have been texting me all day yesterday panicking about this because January 13th is the last day they'll be able to process their pay unless something happens on the floor for committee staff, for example. For other staffers, it's not clear even later into the month when they can get paid. So this is a problem on all fronts. And of course, the Americans People Business Constituent Services cannot get done. The House Rules Committee ruled that yesterday. So this is really an issue that's affecting all Americans as they're watching this drama play out on the House floor. This is drama bringing it back home into their real lives as they can't get any answers from their elected representatives.
Yeah, the ripple effects here, it's about more than just one position. Julie, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Now let's get to some encouraging news this morning for Buffalo Bills defensive player Damar Hamlin.
The 24-year-old is still in the ICU at a Cincinnati hospital after suffering cardiac arrest during Monday's game against the Bengals. But doctors treating Hamlin say he is making, quote, remarkable progress, adding that he is alert and communicating by writing, even asking about the result of the game.
When he asked, did we win? The answer is yes. You know, Demar, you won. You've won the game of life. It's not only that the lights are on, we know that he's home, and that it appears that all the cylinders are firing within his brain.
The NFL officially announced the cancellation of the Bills-Bengals game that was suspended after Hamlin's collapse on the field. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has the latest from Cincinnati.
Hey guys, good morning. Yes, so many, as you know, here in Cincinnati, frankly, also in Buffalo and frankly across the country, breathing a massive collective sigh of relief after such a grueling week with so much uncertainty. Incredible news out of this hospital that Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin again is awake. He's responsive. He's communicating with family and friends, holding their hands. And one of his first questions, the doctors said, was who won the game, meaning who won Monday's game. He wanted to know if the Bills pulled out a win. So just incredible news. The doctors also so encouraged by this, saying he seems completely neurologically intact. And this comes, of course, more than 72 hours. It came more than 72 hours after Hamlin on Monday's game, during that game against the Cincinnati Bengals, suffered a cardiac arrest on the field and then just collapsed. So days later, now doctors say he still has a long road ahead. He is still in critical condition. He's still on a breathing machine, meaning he can't talk. He's communicating and asking those questions with a pen and paper. Still, those doctors, again, just so encouraged by what they're seeing. Also new overnight, the NFL announcing a decision that a lot of people were also waiting for, now saying they will not reschedule the game between the Bills and the Bengals. Telling reporters in part they made that decision because no one specific team would qualify for the playoffs or be disqualified from the playoffs based on the outcome of that game. That being said, teams are meeting today. NFL execs are meeting more about this, so we expect more about that decision and what it could mean for certain playoff scenarios once that gets underway. But again, obviously the big announcement from the hospital inspiring so many, including the Buffalo Bills, who yesterday their quarterback Josh Allen said they are now ready to play on Sunday against the Patriots, saying in light of this incredible news, they want to play for 3, which is, of course, Hamlin's number. So again, the update so many were waiting for. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
All right, such great news. Maggie, thank you so much. For more on Hamlin's recovery, let's bring in NBC News medical contributor, Dr. Kavita Patel. Dr. Patel, great to have you, and great to have you on some good news. So we heard from two of those doctors there during that press conference yesterday. We played some of that sound. They're treating Hamlin while he's in the ICU there, who just said, you know, the lights are on and he's home. What's standing out to you about his progress so far? Is this something you would expect to see, you know, just 3 days after someone goes through cardiac arrest? Is he making good, quick progress? What would you say?
Savannah, Joe, it's the best you could have hoped for. I mean, following a cardiac arrest from trauma, we still don't know the exact cause. We have our likelihood, but this can be a really rough road to recovery, depending on oxygen flow to the brain, the impact to other organs, and in general, a young, healthy person like Demar has a great prognosis, but everybody was cautious after watching what unfolded that night. So just the fact that he was neurologically not just intact, but incredibly responsive, that little clip of him going back and forth on pen and paper, asking a very high order question, did we win? He had memory intact. He had a lot of the things that we look for as we're continually testing people who had experienced such a cardiac arrest.
Absolutely. Doctors say even though he remains in critical condition, it does appear the words that they used yesterday were neurologically intact. Can you explain what doctors are looking at as they evaluate him? You know, we heard he was able to communicate writing. Are there any red flags to be on the lookout for, or, you know, good signs of progress?
Yeah, the good news here is that you've got not only the best level 1 trauma team, but this is probably one of the most experienced critical care teams and neurologists, cardiologists, all of the above. But there is a standard approach to what we do in patients as we're trying to assess their neurological function. Standard tests like understanding their responses to pain, looking at brain imaging and understanding whether their brain is kind of lighting up in the places that it should be in somebody who is neurologically intact. And then just the simple things, Savannah, that, you know, even being able to the act of being able to pick up a pen, holding an object, being able to respond to stimuli, things that are happening in certain areas, left, right, front, back. All of those things are part of a comprehensive test that doctors are doing, not just on a daily basis, but on a frequent basis, sometimes on an hourly basis in the early parts of an ICU stay. You can expect that to continue with Demar, along with making sure, again, that all his other organs are working in order, drawing blood on a regular basis. And I think what you heard is the critical thing here, getting him off of that ventilator, that tube that's in his mouth, down into his lungs to help him to breathe. They will be doing that, hopefully over the next several days, maybe sooner, by continuing to bring down the sedation that allows for his body to not fight that ventilator. That's a good sign. That means that maybe in his future, near future, that tube will come out and he'll be able to slowly talk. That'll also be another sign of progress.
Yeah, so let's talk about exactly what you're mentioning, kind of what happens next. So obviously the tube coming out, him being able to communicate verbally rather than just written. What do you think needs to be seen by doctors in order for him to actually get out of the ICU, eventually out of the hospital?
Yeah, it's a great question. Sometimes we need to keep people in the intensive care unit, not because they are so still critically ill. Of course, Demar now is still considered critically ill, but over the next several days, he could improve with that tube coming out and with less and less support needed as his normal kind of function resumes. That is the best outcome we can hope for. Do not take it as a bad sign. If he's still in the ICU in several days, that's really so he can have that intensive monitoring. That's not a sign that things are not improving. But I would expect, and sometimes we keep people in the ICU for days and days, even after that tube is out and things have improved. But certainly a huge milestone will be to come out of an intensive care unit into what we call a regular hospital ward, and then, of course, discharged from the hospital. All of that looks promising in Demar.
Dr. Patel, thank you so much. Again, so good to have you on some good news here. We appreciate it. See you soon.
Now to disturbing new details about the suspect accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students.
Yeah, Bryan Kohberger made his first appearance in an Idaho courtroom yesterday after being extradited from Pennsylvania, where he was first taken into custody last week. NBC News correspondent Gadi Schwartz has more on how investigators were able to link him to the killings.
As Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger appeared in court.
Count 2 alleges that you committed the felony offense of murder in the first degree.
Chilling new details revealed about the massacre investigators say he carried out in the dead of night. According to court documents, one of the surviving roommates in the house was awake and heard noises coming from upstairs. At one point, hearing someone say, "There's someone here." That's when she opened the door, heard crying coming from Xana's room, and a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Minutes later, she saw the unknown man wearing black clothing and a mask walk past her. She stood in frozen shock and locked herself in her room. Why 911 wasn't called for hours remains unclear. Police say the killer stabbed all 4 victims on the top 2 floors of the home, but left DNA on a knife sheath found on the bed next to victim Madison Mogan. Police linking the DNA to Kohberger after taking a sample from trash from his parents' house in Pennsylvania. According to police, Kohberger's phone records place him near the house of the 4 victims on at least 12 occasions prior to the murder, most in the late evening or early morning hours. The night of the killing, his cell phone did not register on any towers, leading investigators to believe he turned his cell phone off between the hours of 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., the same time of the murders. Investigators first used surveillance video of the area to connect the homicide to a white Hyundai Elantra, later located on the WSU campus, just 15 minutes from the crime scene. Police say the suspect changed his license plate and registration for the white Elantra just 5 days after the killings.
I have court-appointed counsel.
His public defender saying he intends to plead not guilty. Court, the PhD criminology student responding to limited questions.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Saying yes each time he was asked if he understood that a conviction could lead to life in prison or death.
It's obviously an emotional time for the family, seeing the defendant for the first time. This is the beginning of the criminal justice system, and the family will be here for the long haul.
Kohberger expected to be back in court next Thursday as the victims' families pray for justice.
Our thanks to Gadi Schwartz for that report. For more on the case, let's bring in former FBI Special Agent Dr. Brianna Fox. Dr. Fox, good morning. So Kohberger's court appearance, it prompted the release of those documents that had been sealed. They chronicled what led to his arrest. Some of that includes DNA found on a knife sheath, even though the murder weapon itself has not been found. I mean, what stood out to you in these documents?
Well, first, thanks for having me on. There's a lot in these documents that's notable. The first is that they used what appears to be genetic genealogy to trace the DNA found on that knife sheath back to the father of Brian Kohberger. This is important because it shows that there is a very small probability that anybody else could have potentially had their DNA on that sheath. It really was very likely that it came from Brian Kohberger.
As the case moves forward without a murder weapon, how might prosecutors try and prove their case against the judge here based on what you see laid out in the affidavit?
Well, let's say that the defendant alleges that he had just left his knife sheath there. It was completely innocent. There's so much more evidence that's in there that he was going to have to go up against. Why his cell phone was turned off in these strange hours. Why his vehicle was seen coming and going in the area of the murders. Why he was there or in that area 12 separate times before the murders occurred. Why he changed his license plate. There's so much he's going to have to convince a jury was just happenstance in order to convince them that he was not responsible.
Let's talk a little more about some of this. Police say they have video of Kohberger's Hyundai Elantra near the crime scene when the murders took place nearly 2 months ago. The affidavit also lays out evidence about his cell phone, that it was near the crime scene, though investigators suspect he did turn it off, as you mentioned, before the killings. I mean, how important a role is all of this going to play in the investigation?
It's all critical, and it really helps to show that even if you remove 1 or 2 of these pieces, that they could be explained away, there's still this mountain of evidence that remains and has to be essentially excused away too. So while I do believe every defendant deserves a presumption of innocence, he certainly has an uphill battle trying to explain away all of these things and saying they're all coincidences and that somebody else didn't have all of that happen and still was the offender.
All right, Dr. Brianna Fox, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Let's turn to weather now. In the aftermath of that bomb cyclone which hit the West Coast this week, leaving a trail of destruction and multiple injuries. Tens of thousands of homes and businesses in California were left without power. And the state may be getting a break from the wet, windy weather today, but not for long.
Meteorologist Angie Lassman joins us now with more. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. We're seeing just a couple of light showers that have worked through so far this morning in places like San Francisco, which, by the way, has had its wettest 10-day period on on record. This breaks a record from the 1800s, so it tells you just how significant these past couple of days have been. We'll still see more of these heavy rain events working through over the next coming days, but right now a little bit of a break, just some light rain in that area. But there is a parade of more storms headed to the California coast. Here's the first one that we're going to watch. This is late tonight into tomorrow, where we'll see it impact folks in Northern California and up into portions of Washington. We'll see some heavy snow as well as we get into parts of the Rockies. The secondary storm that we're going to watch in this parade is going to be a whole lot of rain and snow for Sunday. That'll start to move closer to the coast here as we get into the end half of the weekend. And then as we get into Monday and Tuesday, this is the one that we'll really have to keep a close eye on for significant flooding. We likely will see that occurring up and down the California coast here as we go through early next week. So here's the rundown of our weekend rainfall. This is what we're expecting, anywhere from 3 to 5 inches. And again, this is mostly going to be focused into Northern California, into portions of Oregon, where we see those highest totals. We've already seen plenty of rainfall, so we know the soil is saturated. We know that we've already had the flooding concerns, and we'll also deal with the gusty winds too. That'll be something that will accompany those storms too. And the snowfall, as we look into the Sierras, we could see anywhere between a foot to a foot and a half by the time we get through the weekend as well. Now let's switch coast and go over to the Northeast, because that's where we're watching for some light shower, some light rain to work through. This is maybe making for a bit of a difficult commute in places like Boston, where we're going to see these temperatures wind down. We'll see it cool down, and we could see a changeover from from rain rather to snow, and it'll make the conditions on the roadways a little slick. This is from a system that's going to continue moving out. A weak cold front, it does again bring a little bit of an iffy condition to the early parts of your day today, but as we get into the afternoon commute, we'll still see some slick conditions in places like Boston and Portland, but better conditions on the way here as we get into the next couple of days. Along the lakes, we'll also see some of these snow flurries too, so just be aware of that. Looking ahead to the weekend elsewhere, we'll watch for a couple of these thunderstorms working through parts of the South. Record potential temperatures as we get into places like Texas today, which will see highs into the 70s and high 70s at that. In the high plains, we'll see plenty of sunshine. Of course, in the west, we're going to watch for those couple of storms to move in. And then you see that light snow that we'll still be dealing with in places like Michigan, Indiana, and into Illinois as we wrap up our weekend. We'll also keep a close eye, guys, on this heavy rain that we'll have working through parts of the South. But really, over the next couple of days, it's going to be all eyes on the West Coast as more of these storms start to work in and cause more problems there.
Unreal how much rain they're getting. All right. Thank you so much, Angie.
Thank you.
As the House continues to battle over the Speaker's gavel, you may notice the date on today's calendar. It's January 6th, and today the White House is marking the second anniversary of the insurrection that unfolded at the Capitol.
Yeah, President Biden will award the Presidential Citizens Medals to 12 people who defended the building during the attack, including members of the Capitol and Metropolitan Police. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick will receive his award posthumously.
A bipartisan Senate report found at least 7 deaths were connected to the attack, and dozens more were injured. And in the last 2 years, almost 1,000 people have been charged in connection to the attack.
This also comes just 2 weeks after the January 6th committee released its final report calling on the Department of Justice to charge former President Trump for inciting an insurrection.
Joining us now is NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss. Michael, good to have you with us on this day. I mean, recent polling from Quinnipiac University found Americans are nearly split on whether the U.S. should move on from the January 6th insurrection. As a historian, where do you fall on this one? I mean, what significance should this day hold in American history?
Well, Joe and Savannah, I'm on the never be forgotten side. This was a moment 2 years ago. We almost lost our democracy. We have to always remember those scenes. There were violent marauders who invaded our Congress and our sense of law and order and our Capitol. And if they had been a little bit faster, there's a lot of evidence now that they might have killed our Vice President, Mike Pence, our then Speaker, Nancy Pelosi. There could have been a move to get Donald Trump to not only suspend the election and seize the voting machines, but even martial law, we're learning. If all of that had happened, you might not have had Joe Biden inaugurated, and we would be living in an authoritarian country of brutality and other things that I don't even want to think about. That's how much this meant. The other thing is, remember that in that House chamber today, voting will be new members, many of whom thought that January 6th, that insurrection, was a great idea.
Michael, as we mentioned, the January 6th committee has recommended former President Trump be charged with at least 4 federal crimes. Put that in context for us with past presidents and other White House scandals.
We have had a lot of scandals in the White House, a lot of presidents who were bad presidents and doing bad things, but they never did something as bad as waging an attack against our American democracy. You know, the evidence that's now coming out, especially from the now retired House January 6th committee, suggests that Donald Trump, as president, was at the center of all of this. Jefferson Davis tried it. He was the president of something called the Confederacy, but Davis was not president of the United States. When before in American history have we had a president of the United States launch what amounted to a coup d'etat against what Congress was doing and against our democracy? That's in a category of its own.
Nearly all of the fallout from the insurrection has happened during President Biden's time in office, except for the first 2 weeks after the insurrection. I mean, how do you think he'll be remembered for his handling of the attack, trying to toe a line between not being too political about it, but trying to get the nation back on track?
Well, one of the things that presidents do is tell us what's important in history. You know, what if we had, for instance, in contrast to this, a president during the last 80 years who said that, you know, the attack on Pearl Harbor wasn't that important. FDR should not have taken us into war. In contrast to that, President Biden is saying we should see this as a triumph for democracy. We overcame January 6th. 2021. We're still a functioning political system, but it was really close, and we've always got to be vigilant.
All right, Michael Beschloss, it's always good to have your perspective on days like this. Thanks so much for joining us. And our very own Hallie Jackson will be taking a look back at the insurrection today in our January 6th report special. That's tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on NBC News Now.
And coming up, Russia enacts a temporary ceasefire in Ukraine this morning.
More on why they're calling for a few days of peace and why Ukraine is not going along. You're watching Morning News Now. We're back with the latest on the war in Ukraine, where a unilateral Russian ceasefire came into effect earlier this morning.
President Putin announced the 36-hour truce yesterday for Russian Orthodox Christmas, which is celebrated tomorrow. But Ukraine has dismissed the move. NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now with more from Kyiv. Matt, good morning. So how did this ceasefire come about, and why is it that Ukraine rejected it? What's happening now? Is it being observed or no?
Well, it's definitely not being observed. This whole thing was stillborn, and it wasn't so much that Kyiv rejected it. They actually laughed it off. There were jokes about this made by top-level officials on social media. And you asked how this came about. Well, this started when Patriarch Kirill, who's the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, suggested it earlier yesterday. Then Vladimir Putin, as you mentioned, unilaterally ordered it to be imposed on the front lines. Now, there's no evidence that there's any silencing of the guns on the front lines, and that's because of that rejection by Kyiv. But Kyiv had also said, and the officials here, that this was just a cynical ploy or even a propaganda campaign by Moscow in order to paint Kyiv, once again, and this has been consistent with Vladimir Putin's comments since this war started, as godless heretics who are trying to deny or efface traditional Russian values in their alignment with the West. But folks here on social media and even top officials noted quite rightly that Vladimir Putin and his military seem to have no problem continuing to bombard civilian targets here in Ukraine on Western Christmas on December 25th, as we would celebrate it in the West, and on New Year's Day. There were continuing attacks then. So this holiday, which was, again, unilaterally announced one day before, and these sorts of truces normally take weeks of negotiations in order to come to realization, that this was just a cynical attempt by Vladimir Putin either to defame Kyiv or just to rearrange his troops by using the silence as a kind of cover for him.
So Ukraine's not going along with it, Matt. How's the White House responded to this move by the Kremlin?
Yeah, well, we heard from the White House. They said that this was something that they also found to be a very shallow offer. Here's what we heard.
I think that there's significant skepticism, both here in the U.S. and around the world right now, given Russia's long track record of propaganda, disinformation, and its relentless attacks against Ukrainian cities and civilians. So, of course, From our perspective, if Russia was truly interested in ceasing the violence and the bloodshed that they have brought to Ukraine's people, they would pull out of Ukraine immediately.
And that's more or less what we heard from President Zelensky. If you want a ceasefire, if you want a truce, then leave Ukraine. We even heard from somebody here, I think it was the Ministry of Defense, saying, we won't shoot you in the back if you want your truce. You can leave.
Matt, this all comes as the United States and Germany have announced plans to send armored fighting vehicles to Ukraine. Walk us through what's in this latest weapons package from both countries.
That's right. There's Bradley armored fighting vehicles from the United States, the Mardar fighting vehicles from Germany, and you forgot to mention France. The day before, they were also sending their own brand of fighting vehicles. That's something that can really burnish the capabilities of the Ukrainian ground forces before what could become a new offensive by the Russians in this new year. But, you know, there's also the Patriot missiles, another Patriot missile battery system that's coming from Germany. And in addition to all of that, a lot of money, which is, of course, what Ukraine needs very much as well. So this represents a kind of step change in the way that the West has been offering assistance, because these are fighting vehicles. But for anybody, for us, you know, normal people who aren't military wonks, these look and act like tanks. And tanks have always been a barrier in Western provision of aid, because there's always been this fear that they could escalate the conflict by providing heavier and heavier weapons. Now, the fact of the matter is the U.S. and the rest of Europe have been providing extremely heavy, sophisticated weapons for months now. So these barriers, as we're seeing with this offer just yesterday and the day before from France, are just slowly, gradually sort of fading away. Guys.
All right, Matt Bradley from Kyiv for us. Thank you so much.
Coming up, new royal revelations from Prince Harry's upcoming memoir.
We're learning more about his fractured relationship with his brother, Prince William, and how he found out about his mother, Princess Diana's death. That story is up next.
This morning, we're learning more about bombshell accusations from Prince Harry's upcoming memoir, claims about his childhood, his relationship with his brother and father, and the death of his mother, Princess Diana.
Yeah, the book is due out to be released on Tuesday, but media outlets, including NBC News, have obtained Spanish copies that, get this, mistakenly went on sale early.
And the media gobbled those up right away. NBC News Royal contributor Katie Nichol joins us now. Katie, good morning to you. So following up on yesterday's bombshell allegation by Harry that Prince William physically attacked him, there are more details about tensions with Prince William and Kate. What does the book say here, and how damaging could all this be for the future king?
Well, the revelations have come thick and fast. And of course, we have Spanish Bookshop to thank for all of that, who breached the embargo, which is astonishing, really, given this sort of ring of steel around the publication of this book that was being treated like J.K. Rowling's releases, absolutely top secret. There are so many revelations to dissect and discuss in all of this. And I think the one thing to say is that we have not been spared, excuse the pun, any revelations. I mean, Harry goes to places where I'm truly surprised. It's just no holds barred, and he dissects his relationship with William. We get more details about the fallout between Kate and Meghan. There's clearly a huge amount of family tension, and that seems to date right back to the beginning. The one thing that struck me in my reading of all the excerpts is just how much Harry struggled with his very role as the spare. As we're looking at that picture, these lovely pictures of him and his brother, this idea that brotherly bond could be broken when they were once so close is really laid bare. We really understand how it got to this point. There's one tiny nugget of information that I just thought was so telling. When Harry and William used to go to Balmoral, William used to get the better bedroom with the bigger window and the better view. And, you know, Harry resented that. He resented the fact that William and Kate lived in a bigger, swankier apartment at Kensington Palace, while he and Meghan were shoved into little Nottingham Cottage. Their position in the hierarchy seemed to be something that they resented. And for Harry, that goes right back to his childhood. There is so much resentment and bitterness and jealousy in this narrative. It's a painful read over 400 pages.
Wow. I mean, it's a sell for me anyway, to want to read it, because it just sounds like it's so shocking, the amount of revelations. The other thing I know that a lot of people are interested in is hearing about Harry's reaction to the death of his mother, Princess Diana, and then also, of course, how he and William felt about his father marrying again. What does the book say there?
Well, I think so many of us are interested in his recollections of his mother's death. Of course, he was only a young boy. He was 12 at the time. And he said before his memories are pretty scant, but he does remember his father coming into his bedroom, waking him up on that fateful morning and delivering that tragic news, but not giving him a hug. He says he sort of patted his son on the knee, telling him everything will be okay. And this thread of loss and inability to come to terms with what happened to his mother is a thread that holds this whole narrative together. I mean, he describes in really painful detail how he's driven repeatedly through the Alma Tunnel in Paris to try and get some sense of clarity, some understanding. In moments of desperation, he reached out to mediums and clairvoyants to try and communicate with his mother, to try and find out if her death was an accident, what really happened to her. And so this theme of Diana and this huge impact that losing her at such a young age has had on William is evident throughout.
We only have a little bit of time here, Katie, but there's still no reaction from King Charles or Prince William or Buckingham Palace to the book. What are their options? Do you think we're going to hear from them after the book is released officially?
Well, at the moment, it's been no comment. And I think, to be perfectly honest with you, Harry has the royal family over a barrel. He knows that even if there is a response, it will be brief. They're not going to sit down and give an in-depth interview addressing every twist and turn of this increasingly complex narrative. I think the general feeling over at both palaces is that any comment is only going to fuel this narrative. They're hoping it'll just burn out. But I'm afraid over the next few days, with all these interviews coming up and what we expect to be bumper book sales, it's probably going to be a few more days before this story dies out.
Yeah, a lot more fuel to the fire. Katie Nichol, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And now to a story that really packs a punch. Hundreds of Parkinson's patients are turning to an unusual form of therapy to help handle some of their symptoms, boxing classes.
And many of them are finding out it's more than just a thorough workout. They're finding a community. NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal is here with the details. Doctor, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, nearly 1 million people in this country battling Parkinson's disease. And while doctors usually treat this with medications or even surgery, some are trying a new kind of treatment, boxing. We visited a class here in Long Island to find out more.
Come on, hit it hard. Throw some of those low power punches. Yeah.
Lone Tanning, diagnosed with Parkinson's disease 1 year ago, has found new hope in an unexpected therapy, boxing.
My favorite segment of the class, the punching, the actual punching away on the bag. It's symbolic, you know, this is how you have to fight Parkinson's. You have to just really get strong and punch it away from you.
Rocksteady Boxing, a non-profit organization, has developed a non-contact boxing curriculum for Parkinson's patients around the world.
And then sometimes I'll just say, when I say left, throw a left uppercut. When I say right, throw a right uppercut. And I'll say left, left, right, and try and try to change it up so that it's challenging them.
Every week, Lone is joined by fellow Parkinson's patient Greg Dimitriou, who says he has kept the disease from progressing, one punch at a time.
What about your life outside of here? I mean, how has your life changed as a result of coming here?
Pretty much I feel that I've plateaued. I have not degenerated. The agility, the balance, the speed, the power that you have to incorporate into all these different exercises are major league helpful.
Small studies have found that boxing can help reduce falls and improve walking speed and endurance in Parkinson's patients. It can also boost their mood. In fact, a majority of Rocksteady boxers surveyed said that undergoing the Rocksteady curriculum helped improve their social lives, fatigue, depression, and anxiety.
The thing that I do see the most is benefit in non-motor symptoms. They feel that they have a better social life because they have people that they can connect to. They feel less anxious, they feel less depressed because of that, because they essentially have made friends and other friends that have Parkinson's disease.
These classes making an impact.
I found beyond a sense of community, I found camaraderie, I found caring, I found that, you know, it's just so good to know you're not the only one.
So far, Rocksteady Boxing has found its way to over 40,000 boxers across 14 countries battling Parkinson's disease. For these patients, every day, a new chance to fight.
Are you concerned there's a day might come where you may not be able to do this anymore?
Yes, it scares the hell out of me. And I'm going to fight against that as hard as I possibly can.
So it sounds counterintuitive, right? Boxing and brain health. But for those looking to learn more, rocksteadyboxing.org, they have over almost 1,000 locations across the world. And if you can't make it to one of their locations, they actually have a curriculum on YouTube for those who want to try the workouts at home. And to be clear, this is non-contact boxing. They're not fighting with each other.
That's the key.
They're fighting against Parkinson's disease.
Yeah, and I did a story on something similar years ago in Seattle, and it is amazing. It helps the body and the mind. It really is incredible what a difference it makes.
And not to be cheesy, but the heart, finding that community together too, you know? All right, Dr. Akshay Sal, thank you so much. Great story.
Coming up, no chatbots allowed. We're going to tell you why the nation's largest school system is banning the use of the viral ChatGPT.
Plus, a new in-flight perk for passengers on Delta Airlines. That's up next.
We're back with some financial headlines. A Federal Trade Commission proposal could prevent employers from imposing non-compete clauses on their workers.
NBC's Pippa Stevens joins us now with that and other news. Hey, Pippa, good morning.
Good morning. Well, the FTC is moving to ban companies from requiring workers to sign non-compete provisions that it says hurts workers. Companies use such clauses to keep employees from leaving for better jobs. The Federal Trade Commission estimates if its proposed rule goes into effect, U.S. wages would rise by $300 billion per year, and an estimated 30 million Americans could have better career opportunities. Surveys have estimated 16 to 18% of U.S. workers are subject to non-compete provisions. And Delta Airlines will begin offering free Wi-Fi on February 1st. About 80% of the domestic fleet will be equipped at launch, with more planes being added each week. The service will be expanded to all of Delta's international and regional flights by the end of next year. Passengers will be able to connect on all their devices by logging onto their SkyMiles frequent flyer account. And Mercedes-Benz will build its own electric vehicle charging network as it looks to compete with Tesla. The luxury automaker will start in North America and says when that network is completed in 6 to 7 years, it will have 400 charging stations. Mercedes says it will be open to all electric vehicle brands, but Mercedes owners will be able to reserve charging ports and get preference over other models. So much momentum around EVs. Everyone clearly trying to capitalize.
Yeah, and that's one of the big issues, is not enough places to charge them. So that's pretty cool.
Exactly. All right, Pippa Stevens, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Now, the New York City Department of Education is cracking down on artificial intelligence in the classroom. A viral chatbot named ChatGPT is now banned from all of the city's public school devices and systems.
Yeah, a spokesperson for the department says the technology harms students' ability to learn. In a statement, she said, quote, while the tool may be able to provide quick and easy answers to questions, it does not build critical thinking and problem-solving skills, which are essential for academic and lifelong success. Let's bring in James Vincent for more on this. He's a senior reporter at The Verge. James, good morning. So let's talk through what the issues are here and why it is that educators would be concerned about this technology. And for people who maybe haven't seen the viral post about just exactly what it is this chatbot can do, kind of explain it. I mean, it is pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic technology. So it's artificial intelligence, but it is a chatbot that you have a conversation with. And the thing about it is that you can ask it pretty much any question you like, and it will come up with an answer. Not always the right answer, which is part of the problem that educators and other people have with this technology. But for a teacher, from their perspective, if you ask a student to, say, write a 5-paragraph essay on a certain topic, something historical or scientific, a student can just punch that question into ChatGPT and it will produce a really good answer. It'll produce it in a matter of seconds, and it'll be enough to get them a decent grade. So the worry is that tools like this will essentially accelerate plagiarism within the classroom.
And as we heard there, and not help students with critical thinking, which is so essential, especially right now with all the misinformation out there and social media. But here's the deal. They might be able to ban this now, but is artificial intelligence in the classroom inevitable? I mean, are there ways these systems can be utilized for the better, like when Google was first introduced in the classroom?
Absolutely. I think this is something we've seen a lot before with education. And, it's obviously a big question about what is the purpose of education. You can take a holistic view and say it's delivering lots of different qualities for people. And you can also, be more pragmatic about it and say it's preparing people for the workplace. Now, the workplace changes as we get new technologies. I went through the sort of the rise of Wikipedia during my school days. And, people have gone through the rise of Google search. And these tools change how we work. They change also how we need to be educated. You know, you can go right back and look at the introduction of pocket calculators, for example, in the 50s and 60s onwards. You know, this was something, a technology, a novel, disruptive technology that changed what needed to be tested in the classroom. And I think we're going to see similar changes implemented with the spread of AI tools like ChatGPT. Educators are going to have to change what it is they're testing people for, because you can't just stamp out these tools forever. They will become available.
So, I mean, you're talking about some of the incredible use of this technology and how, it's just really kind of amazing to watch it work. I mean, one of the ones that went viral was somebody literally writing in, please write me a Bible verse in King James style about a peanut butter sandwich stuck in a VCR, and it comes up with it. Like, just to really put in perspective, like, how you could definitely say, can I have a 5-paragraph essay about, any type of topic? But is this company doing anything to try to stop this use of it, to try to work with educators to say, okay, we have this great technology, but let's not use it for students to cheat?
Well, the company behind it is OpenAI. They're based in San Francisco, and they have put ChatGPT on the web and described it as a sort of experimental prototype. They're putting it out there in order to get exactly this sort of feedback. You know, this technology is not just going to be provided by one company. It's going to be something that is provided by lots of different applications and lots of different software. So trying to control it from one company is not really a feasible approach to this. So I think the way we're doing it at the moment, which is technology is accessible, people get access to it, and then they can try and adapt to it. So, for example, you can create software that automatically detects whether a text has been generated by AI, in the same way that you have software that detects plagiarism. But I think that's only going to be of a limited use, and there will be ways around those sorts of software in the future.
Oh, James Vincent, really, really interesting. Thank you so much for walking us through that. Great to have you on.
Thank you.
Coming up on Morning News Now, a surprise that was so good, so good.
Neil Diamond greets fans at the opening night of the musical about his life. We'll take you behind the scenes. That's up next. Welcome back. New limited edition bags of M&Ms are coming, and they're all female. There we go, those upside down ones, because we're flipping the status quo. That's right. The candy maker says they want to celebrate women everywhere, and they're doing so by spotlighting, you know these guys, the female M&M colors. You remember the commercials, the green one, the brown one, and the newest addition to the gang, the purple. Maker Mars is donating $1 from every pack sold to organizations committed to lifting up and empowering women ahead of International Women's Day. You remember last year the M&Ms got a new look with green, swapping her white go-go boots for sneakers, because obviously they're more comfortable and practical, and she deserves to feel that way.
Love it. It's so cool.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Thank
Cute.
you, Savannah.
You got it.
All right, so classic hits like Sweet Caroline and Cracklin' Rosie have made Neil Diamond one of the best-selling musicians in history. Now, a new Broadway musical is reflecting on his career, including a candid look at some of the darker times in his life. I spoke with the actors who star in the show called A Beautiful Noise. To fans, that distinctive voice creates a beautiful noise, which is the name of a new musical about Neil Diamond's life.
Feels pretty cool.
Will Swenson plays a younger version of Neil, while Mark Jacoby portrays Neil now,
which has frequently been called Old Neil.
Both must emulate his looks and his pipes.
I mean, it's not easy. He's got a lot of grit.
But you got it mastered, right?
He seemed to think I was close, so that was good.
So good. Behind the scenes, the real Neil has been part of the process.
I must say it's a completely particular experience to play someone who is alive, and to play someone who is alive who is watching you play him.
Diamond stopped performing in 2018 after he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. This jukebox musical is actually framed as a therapy session as Diamond wrestles with retirement and other tough moments from his past.
People tops in their field build a wall around themselves that's actually hiding something. And I think part of the story we're telling is that you can let that drop.
People are just surprised with how emotionally touched they were. My dad, for example, he's like, I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't know that I'd cry and cry.
On the show's opening night, Diamond was there leading the crowd in song, making one more beautiful noise. And while I don't want to give away too much, the show on nights when Neil Diamond's not there does end with a fun sing-along that will get folks to their feet. Beautiful Noise is playing now at the Broadhurst Theater in Midtown Manhattan. I have to admit, I really enjoyed the show, and I actually cried too. I found the parts about mental health quite well done and interesting.
Yeah,
so.
Very cool to see in a Broadway show a therapy session.
Exactly.
Portrayed.
That's how it literally begins.
Also, I'm sorry, performing as him in front of him.
In front of him.
Oh, scary.
It's a little scary.
Great story. I love when you do Broadway stories. I do love it.
All right, that does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But the news continues right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.